The following program is brought to you by Marshfield Community Television.
Like Sarah said, she had called me up and asked me to put on a presentation, one that I had done in 2011, and I was kind of trying to jog my memory on this presentation and try to remember how I left this impression with Sarah. So it must have been okay. So all right, so I found my old PowerPoint and I updated some of the information so that you can see how we've progressed and moved forward. But what there's a common theme with urban forestry that I experienced working for the City of Antigo Park, Cemetery, and Recreation Department is that trees have really helped our community grow. They've helped our parks expand, and they really are, like the story, the giving tree. They've really given us a lot. And so what I hope you'll see with this presentation is how our urban forest has really moved us positively forward and given us a lot of opportunities as a community. So this is kind of our program history and how we got started with urban forestry. In the mid-90s, forestry technician with the DNR, Pete Solon, wanted to change the forestry program and what he saw in Antigo. And I don't know if it's in here, but apparently there was somebody driving through the community and saw that our trees looked, in their eyes, really horrible or awful. And it was because we have a lot of overhead utilities and lines that run through our boulevards. And as a result, the trees that were planted underneath, which are larger trees that are either medium or tall, fast-growing, weaker trees, silver maples, ended up having to get V'd out, and so that you didn't have a conflict with the utility and then lose power across your community. So deemed ugly. So that was one of the catalysts for kind of getting this program going. In early 2000s, when I was looking back through the files, they had really started looking at a parkway project. And today it's the Springbrook Trail, and we're still expanding it. But it was trying to get the community out on the trails and enjoying some of the wooded areas that we have in our surrounding community. So this was all kind of coming together. We were awarded a grant. It helped us really push the program forward. And in 2009, we were awarded another grant that helped us continue with this program. We applied for another grant this year, and then you'll see that I'll go through some of the different funding sources that have just allowed us to keep this program moving. So, so just to give you a rough idea, our population for City of Antigo, around 8,000. We've been a Tree City USA for 22 years. We just submitted our application for this year. So far, we've been successful with receiving it every year we've applied. Approximately 1,900 street trees, park trees, 850. I learned over the years from 2011 that using words like approximate, an estimate, those are good words to use. And also with trees, because we're taking them down, planting new ones all the time. Number of parks, originally when I did this slide, that number was less. It was fewer than 25. What's happened now, we have added some new parks or some new lands, or I didn't count quite right, but we have a dog park now. It utilizes a capped landfill. We cannot plant trees on that park because we have a cap there, and they don't want the root system to go down and affect that cap in any way. But that's a new park. We also have a single track trail that's also on our other landfill, and that is I have some pictures in here. That's a nice wooded area. A lot of the trail kind of winds in and around the trees, and that's about 1 mile. So that's another park. And then we've also been developing some parks that were originally brownfield. So we've looked at capping some of the contaminated areas and then utilizing those spaces for green space and parks and playgrounds and good community centers. And we also have a campground, a wading pool, a skate park, our ball fields, the trail which has been expanding, and 3 cemeteries. One is right across the street here, Elmwood Cemetery, and that is just under 100 acres as well. And our grant coordinator out of Wausau is always telling us we have too many maples. So this kind of gives you a summary of what we have going on in our community. Too many maples, and that's why we plant now a lot of different diverse species. Some work, some don't. But that's so when we have something come in that wipes out an entire, like the maples, we're not losing our entire urban canopy. We're able to maybe, okay, we lose some here, but we're not losing a whole street, having it bare, and then having to start over. So that's kind of something that we've been working towards. Our department is comprised of 4 full-time staff, a year-round part-time. We have seasonals, and then approximately 50 coach volunteers and 50 to 100 event volunteers. So that just kind of gives you an idea of what we have to work with to make all of this happen. And they always are so happy. Our overall responsibilities include park maintenance and upgrades, the recreation and event prep and cleanup, the cemeteries, winter snow removal from the sidewalks, our urban forestry program, playground safety, and to make this all happen, it takes collaboration between departments, other community resources, good communication, short and long-term planning, and always good customer service so that we can be good stewards for our community and when people get out and utilize our parks for events and programs, they're taking it all in whether they realize it or not. And just like when you go through a home, if you're looking to buy a house, there's something about a house that's well put together that you just can feel. So like trees are like the curtains for our parks. They kind of finish it off, they make it look nice, and they provide that shade. And I think that the community gets a sense of that when they see, and I have a picture that I'll pass around of something that looks bare and doesn't have that shade and doesn't have that aesthetic nice quality, and then when you put those trees in, they really take more pride and ownership over that, and that's really helped us, again, move things forward. Our equipment is, we have the chainsaws, we have the different safety equipment, and then we have the larger equipment, the chipper, the stump grinder, and the bucket truck. And what you'll see is that a lot of the larger equipment is under the umbrella of the street department, which means we have to do a lot of communicating and working together so that we can get all of this accomplished. But we do, and everybody is always so happy. So it's a common theme. Our current urban forestry program, we focused a lot on public education and outreach, not as much in recent years as I would like to see, but with this new grant that we've submitted, we're hoping to get that started up again. We were able to complete an EAB readiness plan. So that's the emerald ash borer that kind of took and assessed all of our trees with our current inventory, and then we're able to prioritize our removals or planting, replanting once we do remove. An invasive species assessment, that was really important, and along the trail people are becoming more and more aware of that doesn't belong and what are we going to do about it. Educational signage, I have some slides on that. Website development, so like Joe was showing you, this information is accessible anytime. Tree maintenance and planning program, training, always very important. And then 10 priority park site plans that have helped us kind of keep our goals in mind and keep moving forward and accomplishing those. In addition, we had a timber harvest right around 6 years ago, and that has helped us fund some different projects, which I'll show you in a bit. Our current public education and outreach, like I said, kind of goes, we have the website, but we also have paper information or brochures that people can come into the office and find out, so that even if it's not a tree that they're interested in planting on the boulevard, maybe it's a tree they want to plant in their backyard, we're able to say that's a good choice, or maybe we would recommend this type of tree, because sometimes you don't want a tree that starts this big and then is going to end up this big 10 feet from your house or your neighbor's property line. These are all things to consider, and sometimes I think our department takes for granted that we have this knowledge and information and that the public doesn't always think about that or is aware of that. I went to visit my brother and his wife this last weekend, and they have the most giant silver maple in their backyard. And all I kept thinking is, oh my God, that is going to come down someday. And they're in the neighborhood that's very tight, and it's beautiful. But that was my first thought. We did complete our EAB readiness plan, which I showed you before. We have approximately 200 ash trees, so we're very fortunate as a community that we don't have thousands and thousands of these trees to try to either, one, figure out how to chemically treat, or two, take down in addition to fitting all of our other hazard trees and priority removals in. So we've been coordinating with Public Works. We're looking at continuing with removals this winter so that we can hopefully just kind of stay on top of this and we won't get caught off guard and get in a situation where we're hurting financially to take down a bunch of trees that are a safety hazard. Again, this is the invasive assessment where they went through and kind of looked at all of our city wooded areas and gave us kind of some guidelines and direction on how IDing the invasives, number one, and then two, what we can do to mitigate the invasives taking over. We were able to do the park signage and informational, educational signage along the walking trail. You'll see some different signs that are out there. And those were done with the Girl Scouts. They collaborated and put that information together. It was funded through an urban forestry grant because a lot of it deals with forestry. And in addition, like I said before, all of these different activities that take place in our parks or along our walking trail or in our wooded areas gets people out. This is a single track trail out at the dump. Gets people out and about and noticing what's around and in their surroundings, and I think it helps them appreciate it all a little bit more. Here's some girls that came and helped for Springbrook cleanup so that they could make sure that our parks were ready for the busy summer season and get all the trash picked up. This is our website where we have the information available to the public, and you can see a lot of it is what we have at our office in paper copies is here available on the website, and some additional tools as well. Tree planting, removal, pruning, our history, Emerald Ash Borer, what it's all about. We provide some links there. Arbor Day celebration, and all that information is there anytime that the public would want to view it. We do perform our tree maintenance year-round, and because our spring and summer is really busy with rec programs, mowing, trimming, and all the other work that we have to be doing in those condensed months during the year, a lot of our tree work, bigger tree work, too, is done in the winter or the fall right now. So, and we do contract with an arborist for anything that's too big or beyond our skill set, or also anything that's up in the power lines. So we try to do as much as we can in-house, but timing and size of the trees sometimes prohibit that. Plantings, every year we try to plant between 30 to 45 trees in-house. This year was the first year that we used the tree graders to help with watering, and also I think it's a nice visual, not only for people out in the community that they can say, what is that? And it gets them asking questions, which is good. But two, it helped our staff identify which trees needed watering, which is always helpful, so that we can make sure that all of the new trees that we planted were getting water that year. A lot of our tree plantings every year are made possible through donations. We've been very, very fortunate to receive donations from WPS, the electrical company, and then ATC, American Transmission Company. And American Transmission Company actually funded a pretty large planting project a couple of years ago, and we were able to put in and almost complete all of the plantings in the Peaceful Valley Park with that donation. And because we did it in-house and kind of coordinated it with an Arbor Day event, it was a nice community event, and the park really has a much different feel now with those trees. We do send our staff to training every year. It is not their favorite thing to do. I've recently been informed that I send them to pruning, and this is just kind of one of those things I tell them. It's like CPR training and first aid. You go, it's a good refresher. Sometimes you learn new things, and it's good that they go and get that information. and they get a free lunch. So it's a win-win. I don't know why they're not more excited. This is one of the projects that we've been working on. This is the Peaceful Valley Pavilion. Funding for this project is partially through a timber sale, donations, and a grant. But I think that, and this is the park plan that was developed through the Urban Forestry Grant, I think that the reason, a big reason why some of these things, why we're moving forward on these larger projects and why some of these things are actually happening is because we've invested in putting together these plans, but really that all started with a tree grant, a forestry grant, and then putting in the trees. And once it starts to take shape and people can imagine it, then a lot of this stuff starts to become a reality. So that's really exciting. And like I said, I kind of think it's because of trees. And this is some picture. These are some pictures from out at the cemetery where we had a timber harvest. I think it's over 5 years now. We also had a windstorm that came through and took down some trees, so we ended up harvesting more than we originally planned. But that's just across the road there. So this kind of, in summary, this is a list of recent and upcoming projects. But what I want you to see is that a lot of these projects are donated. A lot of them are through collaborative efforts. A lot of them are also through our trail system, through the urban forests that we have, through our wooded areas that are adjacent to our city urban space. So I think that's pretty neat to see what we're moving forward on, what we've accomplished, but also that a lot of it is within that space that trees are growing. So that kind of wraps up what I have for a presentation for the city and urban forestry. I know what time it is.